You know what nobody talks about enough? The way your mind starts to feel like it's working through fog after 60. I'm not talking about Alzheimer's. I'm not talking about a diagnosis. I'm talking about the quiet, everyday things that creep up on you. You walk into the kitchen and stand there, completely blank. You're in the middle of a sentence and the word just disappears. You read the same paragraph 3 times and it still won't stick. That's not just aging, and it's not something you have to accept. Here's what shocked me when I first saw this data. A report published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience found that more than 80% of adults over 60 have measurably reduced hippocampal activity, the part of the brain responsible for forming and retrieving memories. And most of them have no idea it's happening. Not because of a disease, because of chronic, low-grade inflammation in the brain that builds up silently over years. But here's what that same research also found. Certain natural plant compounds, not synthetic drugs, not expensive supplements, have been shown to reduce that inflammation, regenerate neural pathways, and in some cases, actually reverse measurable cognitive decline. These compounds come from roots, plants that have been used for thousands of years in traditional medicine, but are now being studied under rigorous clinical conditions with results that are genuinely remarkable. I'm Dr. James Porter. If this is your first time here, welcome, and I encourage you to subscribe if you're serious about living sharper, more clearly, and more fully after 60. Because today, we are going deep on 5 of the most powerful brain-boosting roots that science is now confirming can make a real difference for aging minds. These are not trendy wellness fads. These are ancient plants with modern clinical evidence behind them. And I'm going to walk you through each one, what it does, how it works inside your brain, and how to use it properly. Let's start with one of the most studied adaptogenic roots in the world. Root number 1, ashwagandha, the stress-shrinking root that clears the fog. If you've been feeling mentally exhausted, not just tired, but that deep, draining, can't think straight kind of tired, there is a good chance your cortisol levels are playing a role. Cortisol is your stress hormone. In small amounts, it's useful. It keeps you alert. It helps you respond to challenges. But when cortisol stays elevated for months or years, which it often does as we age, it starts doing something devastating to the brain. It literally shrinks the hippocampus. That's right. Chronic stress physically reduces the size of the memory center of your brain. And this is not a theory. This has been confirmed in neuroimaging studies time and time again. Ashwagandha, a root that has been used in Ayurvedic medicine for over 3,000 years, is one of the most effective natural compounds known to reduce cortisol. And when cortisol comes down, something remarkable starts to happen. The fog begins to lift. Here's the science. Ashwagandha contains a group of active compounds called withanolides. These compounds work on multiple levels in the brain simultaneously. First, they reduce the activity of the HPA axis, the hormonal system that triggers cortisol release, bringing your stress response back into balance. Second, they have been shown to promote the growth of new nerve cell dendrites, the tiny branches neurons use to communicate with each other. More dendrites means faster, richer connections in your brain. A double-blind, placebo-controlled study published in the Journal of Dietary Supplements in 2017 followed adults between 65 and 80 years old who took standardized ashwagandha extract for 8 weeks. The results were striking. Participants showed significant improvement in immediate and general memory, executive function, processing speed, and sustained attention, all compared to the placebo group. But there's another layer to this that I find particularly important for seniors. Ashwagandha has been shown to reduce a protein called BASE1, which is an enzyme involved in the formation of amyloid plaques, the same plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. This does not mean ashwagandha treats or prevents Alzheimer's, but it does suggest the root may help protect against some of the biological processes that contribute to age-related cognitive decline. One of my patients, a retired schoolteacher named Margaret, 72 years old, came to me complaining of what she called mental cotton. She said her thoughts felt wrapped in cotton wool. Sharp moments were getting rarer. She was forgetting appointments, struggling to recall the names of former students she had known for decades. We talked about her lifestyle, her sleep, her diet, and over time she incorporated ashwagandha root powder into her morning routine, about half a teaspoon in warm milk with a little honey. Within 6 weeks, she came back and said something I'll never forget. She said, "The cotton is gone." Now, I want to be careful here. Ashwagandha is not appropriate for everyone. If you're pregnant, have thyroid conditions, or take certain medications, you should speak with your doctor first. Ashwagandha can interact with thyroid hormone medications and immunosuppressants. But for most healthy older adults, it's a gentle, well-tolerated root with a growing body of clinical support. How to use it? Look for root powder or a standardized extract labeled KSM66 or Sensoril, as these are the most clinically studied forms. A typical dose is 300 to 600 milligrams of extract daily, or half a teaspoon of root powder. Take it in the morning or evening with food. Give it at least 4 to 6 weeks of consistent use before you judge the results. Coming up next, a root that has been called the king of herbs across multiple ancient civilizations, and for very good reason. Root number 2, Panax ginseng, the circulation root that fuels your brain. Here's something most people don't realize. Your brain is only about 2% of your total body weight, but it uses 20% of your body's oxygen supply. Let that sink in for a moment. 1/5 of every breath you take goes to feed a structure the size of your 2 fists pressed together. And if the circulation delivering that oxygen becomes sluggish, as it often does with age, your brain is the first organ to feel it. You feel it as slowness, as that lag between when you have a thought and when you can fully form it, as the sense that your mental reflexes just aren't what they used to be. Panax ginseng, also known as Korean or Asian ginseng, has been used as a cognitive tonic for over 5,000 years across Chinese, Korean, and Japanese traditional medicine. And modern science is finally catching up to what those ancient physicians observed. The active compounds in Panax ginseng are called ginsenosides. These remarkable molecules influence the brain through several pathways at once. They stimulate nitric oxide production in blood vessels, causing them to relax and widen, improving blood flow to the brain. They modulate neurotransmitter activity, particularly acetylcholine, which is the key neurotransmitter involved in memory and learning. And they have demonstrated neuroprotective effects, helping shield neurons from oxidative damage. A landmark study published in the Journal of Psychopharmacology found that a single dose of Panax ginseng significantly improved working memory performance and calmness in healthy middle-aged volunteers. More relevant to seniors, a meta-analysis published in Nutrients in 2018 reviewed multiple randomized controlled trials and concluded that Panax ginseng supplementation produced consistent improvements in cognitive function, particularly in the areas of attention, processing speed, and memory. But here's something that sets Panax ginseng apart from many other adaptogens. Its effects can often be felt relatively quickly, sometimes within hours of a single dose, while also building over time with consistent use. There's also emerging research on ginseng and neuroprotection. A study published in the Journal of Ginseng Research found that ginsenosides helped protect against glutamate-induced neurotoxicity, a process where excess glutamate, a brain chemical, causes neurons to become overstimulated and die. This kind of excitotoxicity is implicated in conditions ranging from stroke recovery to age-related neuron loss. I had a patient, a 68-year-old retired engineer named Robert, who described his cognitive slowing in very precise terms, the way engineers do. He said, "My processing speed has dropped. I used to solve problems in my head instantly. Now there's a delay." He wasn't wrong. After incorporating Panax ginseng into his daily routine alongside other lifestyle changes, he returned 3 months later with what he called measurably faster mental calculations. Again, I want to be balanced. Panax ginseng can raise blood pressure in some individuals and may interact with blood thinners and diabetes medications. It can also cause insomnia if taken too late in the day. Always consult your physician before starting, particularly if you're on any regular medications. How to use it? Look for standardized Panax ginseng extract with at least 5% ginsenosides. A common effective dose is 200 to 400 milligrams per day. Take it in the morning, not the evening, as it can be mildly stimulating. It pairs well with a light breakfast and a glass of water. Now we're going to travel north, to the mountains of Siberia and Scandinavia, where one of the most resilient plants on Earth grows in conditions that would kill almost anything else. And what that plant has learned to survive, it can teach your brain. Root number 3, Rhodiola rosea. The mountain root that fights mental fatigue. Imagine growing in soil frozen for most of the year, getting battered by Arctic winds, surviving at altitudes where most plants simply can't breathe. And not just surviving, thriving. That is Rhodiola rosea, a golden-flowered root that grows on cliff faces in Siberia, the Scandinavian mountains, and high-altitude regions of Central Asia. Traditional healers in Russia and Scandinavia used it for centuries to help their communities endure harsh winters, grueling physical labor, and the kind of mental pressure that comes from living in extreme environments. Viking warriors reportedly used it. Siberian healers gave it to couples before marriage to ensure fertility and endurance. And Soviet scientists during the Cold War studied it extensively as a performance enhancer for cosmonauts, athletes, and military personnel. Today, rhodiola is classified as an adaptogen, a substance that helps the body adapt to physical and mental stress. But what's particularly exciting about rhodiola for older adults is its specific effect on mental fatigue and cognitive endurance. The primary active compounds in rhodiola are rosavin and salidroside. These compounds influence serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, 3 of the brain's most critical neurotransmitters for mood, motivation, and mental clarity. They also inhibit monoamine oxidase, an enzyme that breaks down these neurotransmitters, which means more of these chemicals stay active in your brain for longer. A clinical trial published in Phytomedicine followed a group of physicians working night shifts, people experiencing high stress and severe mental fatigue, and found that rhodiola supplementation significantly improved their performance on tests of mental fatigue, attention, and cognitive speed. The effects appeared within the first 2 weeks. For seniors, there's particularly compelling data around rhodiola and age-related mental fatigue. A study published in Aging in 2020 found that older adults who took rhodiola extract for 8 weeks showed improvements in self-reported cognitive function, reduced burnout symptoms, and better performance on tests of executive function, the set of skills that includes planning, decision-making, and mental flexibility. But here's what I find most meaningful about rhodiola for the people I work with. So many older adults don't describe their cognitive decline as forgetting things. They describe it as running out of mental fuel halfway through the day. They start sharp in the morning, but by midday, the clarity is gone. By evening, they can barely hold a conversation. That pattern, good mornings, foggy afternoons, is often a signature of mental fatigue, and rhodiola addresses that pattern directly. Think of it this way. Ashwagandha clears the fog by lowering stress hormones. Panax ginseng fuels the brain with better blood flow. Rhodiola keeps the engine running longer without burning out. One important note: rhodiola is mild but real in its stimulant-like effects. It should be taken in the morning, on an empty stomach if possible, at least 30 minutes before food. Taking it in the afternoon or evening may interfere with sleep in some people. How to use it? Look for a standardized extract with at least 3% rosavins and 1% salidroside. A typical dose is 200 to 400 milligrams per day. Start at the lower end and see how your body responds. Rhodiola is generally very well tolerated with few side effects at standard doses. Next, we're heading to the wetlands of South Asia, to a plant that has been called the herb of grace, and what it does for the aging brain is extraordinary. Root number 4, Bacopa monnieri, the memory root that rewires your brain. Let me ask you something. When you forget a word, a name, where you put your glasses, do you tell yourself that's just normal aging? Most people do. And in one sense, some degree of memory change is a natural part of getting older. But here's what's important to understand. There is a difference between memory slowing down and memory breaking down. And a root called Bacopa monnieri may be one of the most powerful tools available to address both. Bacopa is a small creeping plant that grows in tropical wetlands across India, Southeast Asia, and parts of Africa and Australia. It has been used in Ayurvedic medicine for over 3,000 years, specifically as a medhya rasayana, which roughly translates as a brain-enhancing tonic. Ancient texts recommend it for improving intellect, memory, and the ability to learn. And this is one case where ancient wisdom and modern science line up almost perfectly. The active compounds in Bacopa are called bacosides. These molecules do something that most brain supplements simply cannot do. They support the repair and regeneration of synaptic transmission. In other words, they help your neurons communicate more effectively with each other. They do this by enhancing the activity of kinase proteins involved in neuron signaling, and by increasing the synthesis of proteins that maintain the health of your synaptic connections. Translation: Bacopa doesn't just protect the connections between your brain cells, it helps rebuild them. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology reviewed 9 randomized controlled trials of Bacopa monnieri in adults and found consistent, significant improvements in memory-free recall. This was not a marginal effect. In several individual studies, participants taking Bacopa for 12 weeks showed improvements in delayed word recall tests that were 2 to 3 times greater than the placebo group. There's also important research on Bacopa and attention in older adults specifically. A randomized, double-blind trial published in Rejuvenation Research found that older adults taking Bacopa extract for 12 weeks showed significant improvements in working memory, attention, and the ability to process new information, three of the exact areas that tend to decline fastest with age. Bacopa also has potent antioxidant effects in the brain. It reduces oxidative stress in the hippocampus and cortex and has been shown to inhibit acetylcholinesterase, the enzyme that breaks down acetylcholine. By preserving acetylcholine levels, Bacopa helps maintain the chemical environment the brain needs for clear, sharp memory. Now, here is the one thing I need to tell you that is absolutely critical about Bacopa. Unlike most of the other routes we've discussed, Bacopa is slow. It requires patience. The first few weeks, you may notice nothing. Some people actually experience slightly more mental fatigue in the first 2 weeks as the brain adapts. This is normal. The meaningful cognitive benefits of Bacopa Monnieri typically emerge after 8 to 12 weeks of consistent daily use. This is not a route for people looking for a quick fix. It is a route for people who are committed to the long game of brain health. And for those people, the results can be profound. I have seen this firsthand. A 76-year-old patient named Elaine, a former librarian who had spent her entire life surrounded by books and language, came to me devastated that she could no longer remember the names of authors she had read hundreds of times. Reading, her lifelong joy, had become a source of frustration. After 12 weeks of consistent Bacopa use alongside dietary changes, she told me she had finished a novel for the first time in 2 years. She said, "The names are sticking again." How to use it? Look for a standardized extract with 40 to 55% bacosides. A common effective dose is 300 milligrams per day. Take it with food, as bacosides are fat-soluble and absorb significantly better with a meal containing some healthy fat. Be patient. Give it a full 3 months before you evaluate the results. And now, our fifth and final route. It's the smallest plant on this list. It grows low to the ground, like a quiet, patient teacher. And what it does for the aging brain and nervous system is something that has fascinated scientists for decades. Route number 5, Gotu kola, Centella asiatica. The ancient root that heals your brain from the inside out. There's a saying in Sri Lanka, 2 leaves a day keeps old age away. Those 2 leaves belong to Gotu kola, a small fan-shaped herb that grows in the tropical swamps of Asia and has been used in Ayurvedic, traditional Chinese and Indonesian medicine for thousands of years. It was used by ancient healers to extend life, sharpen the mind, and heal the nervous system from within. In India, it was given to students before examinations to sharpen their recall. In Indonesia, it was brewed as a tea by monks seeking mental clarity for meditation. In ancient texts, it was described as food for the brain. Modern neuroscience is now giving us the molecular explanation for what those ancient traditions observed. The primary active compounds in Gotu kola are triterpenoids, specifically asiaticoside, asiatic acid, medecoside, and medecosic acid. These compounds have been shown to do something that places Gotu kola in a genuinely unique category among cognitive herbs. They stimulate the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, often called the brain's fertilizer, which promotes the growth and maintenance of neurons. They also enhance the growth of axons and dendrites, the physical structures through which neurons send and receive signals. In simpler terms, Gotu Kola doesn't just protect your brain cells, it helps them grow new connections. A study published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that Gotu Kola extract significantly improved mood, memory, and attention in older adults with mild cognitive impairment. A second study, published in Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine, found that Gotu Kola supplementation for 2 months improved working memory and self-rated mood in healthy older volunteers, aged 65 and older. But perhaps the most striking research involves Gotu Kola's effect on the nervous system at the structural level. Gotu Kola has been shown to promote myelination, the formation of the protective myelin sheath around nerve fibers that allows electrical signals to travel quickly and efficiently through the brain. As we age, myelin deteriorates, and this is one of the key reasons cognitive processing slows down. Supporting myelin health means your thoughts travel faster, your reactions are quicker, your words come more readily. There's also compelling evidence on Gotu Kola's impact on anxiety and emotional regulation in older adults. A double-blind study published in the Journal of Clinical Psychopharmacology found that a single dose of Gotu Kola significantly reduced the startle response to stress, suggesting real effects on the brain's fear and anxiety circuits. For older adults who experience cognitive fog worsened by anxiety, and many do, this combination of calming and sharpening is extraordinarily valuable. One more thing sets Gotu Kola apart: its effect on cerebrovascular health. It has been shown to strengthen the walls of small blood vessels and capillaries, including the delicate microvasculature of the brain. Better microvascular health means more consistent, reliable blood flow to all parts of the brain, including the areas responsible for memory, language, and executive function. This route is, in many ways, a complete brain tonic. It nourishes, it protects, it helps regrow, and it calms. How to use it? Gotu Kola is available as a dried leaf tea, a powder, or a standardized extract. If using a standardized extract, look for one containing 10 to 20% Asiaticoside. A typical dose is 500 to 1,000 milligrams of dried herb equivalent per day, or 60 to 120 milligrams of standardized extract. It can be taken as a tea, which is one of the most pleasant and accessible ways to use it, brewed for about 5 to 10 minutes from dried leaves. Drink it in the morning or early afternoon. It is gentle and well tolerated for most people, though, as with all herbs, those who are pregnant, taking medications, or have liver conditions should check with their doctor first. Now that you know all 5 roots, let me show you how to bring them together into a simple, realistic daily plan. One that works with your body's natural rhythms, not against them. Here is how I think about it. Each root serves a different role in the broader story of brain health. Ashwagandha is your foundation. It addresses the stress and cortisol burden that silently erodes your cognition over time. It's best taken in the morning or evening with food, consistently every day. Panax ginseng is your fuel. It improves circulation and neurotransmitter function, giving your brain more of what it needs to fire sharply. Take it in the morning, with breakfast, and expect to feel some effects within the first couple of weeks. Rhodiola is your endurance support. It combats the mental fatigue that drains your clarity by midday. Take it first thing in the morning, ideally on an empty stomach. Think of it as the route that keeps you sharp through the second half of your day. Bacopa is your memory rebuilder. It works slowly and deeply, rewiring synaptic function, protecting acetylcholine, and regenerating the connections your brain uses to store and retrieve memories. Take it with your fattiest meal of the day, every day, for at least 3 months before you assess the results. And Go-To-Cola is your brain's gardener. It grows new neural connections, supports myelin health, strengthens your cerebrovascular system, and calms the anxiety that makes thinking harder. Take it as a tea or supplement in the morning or early afternoon. Now, you do not need to take all 5 at once. In fact, I would recommend starting with just 1 or 2 and observing how your body responds before adding more. If you're new to adaptogens and herbal supplements, start with ashwagandha and bacopa. The combination of stress reduction and memory support is one of the most well-documented stacks in the literature for older adults. After 4 to 6 weeks, you can add Go-To-Cola. After 2 to 3 months, consider incorporating rhodiola or Panax ginseng, based on which symptoms feel most prominent for you. If mental fatigue is your main challenge, rhodiola. If circulation and cognitive speed feel like the issue, ginseng. Always take these roots with food unless otherwise specified. Always buy from reputable brands that provide third-party testing and standardized extract information. And always speak with your physician before beginning any new supplement regimen, particularly if you are on medications for blood pressure, blood thinners, diabetes, thyroid conditions, or antidepressants. Some of these roots have real, meaningful interactions with medications. Consistency is everything here. These are not painkillers. They do not work the moment you swallow them. They are rebuilders. They work at the cellular and molecular level, over weeks and months, to restore and strengthen the brain systems that time and stress have worn down. But they do work, and the research, growing richer and more robust every year, is starting to paint a compelling picture of what becomes possible when you give your aging brain the specific plant compounds it has always responded to. If you've stayed with me through this entire video, I want you to hear something important. It is not too late. I know how tempting it is to hear that and dismiss it, to tell yourself the changes have been happening too long, the fog has been there too many mornings, too many words have slipped away. I know because I've sat across from patients who felt that way. Men and women in their 70s and 80s who came in with their hands in their laps and said quietly, "I think I've lost too much." And what I've learned over 3 decades of practice is that the brain is more resilient than we give it credit for. It is not finished until you are. And even then, the science of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections, to rewire, to adapt, tells us that growth is possible at every age. The 5 roots we talked about today aren't magic. Let me be honest about that. They will not restore a mind to what it was at 30. They will not undo decades of damage overnight. But they can shift the trajectory. They can move you from declining to stabilizing, and in many cases, from stabilizing to genuinely improving. The fog can lift. The words can come back. The sharpness you thought was gone can return. Not all at once, and not without patience, but it can return. You have taken the first step today by simply watching and learning. Now the next step is yours to take. Maybe it's a cup of Go-To-Cola tea tomorrow morning. Maybe it's asking your doctor about bacopa. Maybe it's ordering a quality ashwagandha extract and committing to just 1 month of consistency. Whatever the step, take it. Your brain is waiting. If this video gave you something, knowledge, hope, a new direction, I would be honored if you would tap the like button and share it with someone you love. An aging parent, a spouse, a friend who has been struggling with the same quiet frustrations. And if you want more gentle, science-backed ways to live sharper and stronger after 60, please subscribe. We release new videos every week, always rooted in real research, always designed for people who aren't willing to accept decline as inevitable. Leave a comment below and tell me, which of these 5 routes are you most curious about? Have you tried any of them? I read every single comment, and I love hearing your stories. Until next time, stay well, stay curious, and take care of that extraordinary brain of yours.